called IEW, which is a writing program that the kids have been learning all year. And at this point, they have been taking time to research a character from ancient history, some very ancient, and they are going to share with you some of the information that they've learned. But what you'll be noting is you're going to hear kind of a format that many of the students will have. It might be written in first person, it might be written in third person, but you should be able to identify introductions, conclusions, and then body paragraphs in between for the ones who are reading papers. I am super excited that you guys are here. I'm so impressed with how far these kids have come with writing. There are two classes represented, mine and then Miss Janelle doing, wherever Janelle ran off to. There she is. So we've got rough ages, 4th and 5th grade here. If you look at the program in front of you, I've got them kind of separated out in columns. What's going to happen? We're going to read through this first column. Every student in this first column is going to read. Then we're going to have a 5-minute intermission, because I know it's kind of hard to sit for a long time. During the 5-minute intermission, bathrooms, and then we have a snack table directly out there. It's placed so you guys can go on either side, grab a plate. There's the chips that are on there are gluten-free, as is obviously fruit. Those are gluten-free for those who need gluten-free. And then there's some cookies and other just snacks you guys can nibble. You can bring them back in here. We have permission to bring the snack plates in here and water. But we need to keep it right about 5 minutes just for time. IEW students, when we are done, we need you guys to stay in here for just a minute. Janelle and I would like to get a picture of all of you guys, okay? We good? All right, let's pray real quick and we will get started. Father, thank you so much for these students, for the hard work that they've put in this year. It has been so much fun to get to know these classes and just to see their personalities shine through. We pray, Lord, that as they close out this school year and embark on the next in the fall after they get a break, that you would just bless their educational journeys, bless their families, and just pray that they would come to know your presence more and more in a new way this year. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, without further ado, a unique perspective in history.
I gotta turn it off. Tyrant Lizard King is what Tyrannosaurus Rex means, and they certainly were massive lizards that were tyrants. They roamed the earth a long time ago, and there's still a lot we don't know about them. However, we do know some incredibly awesome things about these amazing lizards. Surprisingly, some people believe T-Rex lived approximately 65 million years ago, in what they call the Cretaceous period. However, the Bible says that God created all the earth, including the dinosaurs, about 6,000 years ago. Evolutionists believe that the dinosaurs were killed when a huge meteor struck the earth. Christians believe that Noah's flood can account for the dinosaurs going extinct. T-Rex were on the ark but died shortly after the flood because of their small population and changes that had occurred during the flood. Most of you have probably seen an image of a T-Rex. They had 60 huge teeth the size of bananas, and their jaws were so powerful they could break bones. Since their full body was about the size of a school bus, they weighed 5 to 7 tons on average. Like sharks, they were able to replace their teeth. They had a special sensor to know the distance between themselves and their prey. They were the fiercest carnivorous dinosaur. The most complete T-Rex skeleton that's ever been found is named Sue, after the person who found it, Susan Hendrickson. It is over 80% complete. The skeleton was found in the Badlands of South Dakota, and at the time, only 10 T-Rex skeletons have ever been found. It took 17 long, laborious, lucrative days to dig up all of Sue's bones. The Chicago Field Museum bought Sue at an auction for $8 million. Sue Hendrickson didn't obtain any of the money for finding Sue. Unfortunately, the landowner snatched all the money. Tyrannosaurus Rex is the most popular dinosaur in the world. They are incredible, mysterious creatures from the past. T-Rex were fierce hunters with huge teeth, sharp claws, and tiny little arms. God was very creative when he made all the dinosaurs.
Oh, yeah, right.
The barbarians that defeated Rome. Barbarian, a person from an alien land, culture, or group believed to be inferior, uncivilized, or violent. Merriam-Webster. So how did the barbarians take down Rome? They were really skilled at warfare and were ruthless, determined, and didn't give up. They attacked when the Roman army was all over the place from conquering so many countries. The Picts were an ancient tribe that were related to the Vikings. The Romans called them Picts based on the word picti, which means painted people in Latin. This name was because when they went to war, they would give themselves blue tattoos. The Romans invaded the Picts and tried to conquer them twice and failed. The Picts would sneak out of the fog and attack horrified Roman troops. Then, appearing to retreat, the Picts would draw them back into the woods, where more warriors were waiting. The Picts invaded Britannia so frequently that the Romans built Hadrian's Wall and the Antonia Wall to keep the Picts and their allies out. Attila the Hun was one of the greatest rulers out of these groups that the Romans called barbarians. The Huns were horse-riding masters. They learned to ride horses when they were age 3 and were such experts with a lasso that they could lasso an enemy off their horse and would drag them unfortunately dismounted enemy behind them. Huns would even sleep on their horses. They raised livestock but were not farmers. They were nomadic. They were outstanding with a bow and arrow and could easily shoot a target from 70 yards away at a full gallop. Their bows were made out of seasoned birch, bone, and glue. Attila assailed the Roman Empire by invading the southern Balkans, Greece, Gaul, and Italy. The severe tactics in war terrified the Romans. The Visigoths were a confederate of tribes that defeated and loot to defeat and loot Rome in 800 years. A shocking fact is that the Visigoth leader Alaric had fought for the Roman Empire, but when the Huns started pushing the Visigoths away from their homeland, they asked to settle in the Roman Empire. The Roman Empire said, okay. However, the Roman officials required them to guard the frontier and pay the Romans high taxes. So eventually they rebelled. Alaric led his people to victory against the Romans around 410 AD. They took the city's treasures, but because they were Christians, they didn't take the Christian treasures, instead protecting them in St. Peter's Basilica. Eventually, the prideful Roman Empire fell to some uncivilized barbarian tribes. The Picts, unconquerable Viking ancestors, the Huns, horrifying horse masters who were outstanding with bows, and the Visigoths, with their powerful leader Alaric, looting the city of Rome. It's crazy that some uncivilized people took down the Roman Empire that was at one point so powerful no other empire could conquer it.
Julius Caesar was one of the most powerful men in ancient Roman history. Caesar was born on July 12th or 13th in the year 100 BC. Growing up, Caesar's childhood was privileged as a member of the patrician class. Tragedy struck when Caesar's father died at the budding age of 16. Historians do not know how his father died, only that it was a sudden death. After the death of Caesar's father, Caesar began his steady rise to military power as a leader in the Gallic Wars. Caesar began speaking publicly and later entered the political scene of Rome. In 59 BC, he was elected as a consul. He ruled what is now present-day Belgium and France. In 9 years, he brought the whole area under Roman rule. Then, in January 49 BC, he returned to Rome and declared himself ruler. 5 years of civil war between Caesar's forces and the supporters of the popular general Pompey ensued. Pompey fled to Egypt and died there where Caesar could not find him. Caesar continued to fight and win battles against Pompey's supporters. Romans were divided over whether Caesar should rule Rome. Some people loved Caesar, and some people wanted the empire to return to a republic. 60 senators conspired to assassinate Caesar on the Ides of March 15th. One of Caesar's closest friends, Brutus, was among the senators that wanted Caesar dead. Caesar's wife warned him about the senators, but he ignored the warning. When Caesar entered the Senate chamber, he was cornered by the mob. They drew their daggers and attacked. He attempted to defend himself, but then he saw his good friend Brutus with the dagger. He resigned himself to his fate and questioned et tu, Brute, and fell dead under Pompey's statue. After Caesar was killed, Rome struggled with its territories, and ultimately Caesar's nephew Octavian gained power as emperor 14 years after Caesar's death. Caesar was a polarizing and charismatic leader in the ancient Roman history, and his feats are still admired by many to this day.
I, Cleopatra, was born in Egypt in the city called Alexandria in the year 69 BC, that was before the Middle Ages. When I was a little girl, I learned many subjects like philosophy, math, medicine, astrology, and music. I spoke 9 different languages, including Latin and Greek. My love of learning taught me different beauty techniques like bathing in donkey's milk for my skin. I loved makeup and wearing perfume made from flowers. I married a Roman emperor named Julius Caesar who helped me claim my power back from my brother who kicked me out of Egypt. I returned to Egypt after my wedding and I helped the city grow to great power. My husband Julius died and the Romans sent their best soldier to kill me. His name was Mark Antony. I wanted to impress him, so I dressed like a beautiful Egyptian goddess. We fell in love and I married him. After many years, a Roman soldier named Octavian came to start a war with his massive army. Through the fighting, Mark Antony heard I was killed, but I wasn't. He was so heartbroken that he took his own life. When I heard he died, I too was so heartbroken that I learned many ways to take my own life as well. Legend has it that a poisonous snake bit me so that the Romans wouldn't kill me. What do you think about this girl named Cleopatra that was born in 69 BC?
The last great king of Assyria. The Lord can use vile, brutal people for his purpose. As arguably the last great ruler of the Assyrian Empire, I was an egregious, sadistic character, a busy military leader, and I would be later to be considered an ancient book nerd, tablet nerd. Growing up in Assyria, I was the third-born son, and while training as a prince, I ferociously fought huge lions to demonstrate my strength. Some historians consider me to be a scholar since I collected so many varieties of plants across my empire for my garden and tablets for my library. I spent time learning with the exemplary cavalry and with archery and historians consider me to be the last great king of Assyria. Frequently, military action was needed to keep order in my vast kingdom due to rebellions. Campaigns took place in Egypt, Syria, and Elam. I killed Elam's ruler. I fought my brother, who I had graciously allowed to rule a city in my kingdom. Because he rebelled against me, I killed him too. One rumor whispered that defeated kings lived in dog kennels. I was known to be cruel, ruthless, vile, and brutal with my enemies. A crown jewel of the Assyrian Empire was the library, which contained lots of interesting facts about ancient history in Mesopotamia. I sent scribes everywhere to search extensively for tablets. Some of them include the Epic of Gilgamesh, which is the oldest story, Enuma Elish, a Babylonian creation myth, and the Epic of Enzu and the Flood tablets, which is an account of the biblical flood. I studied government, religion, medicine, and geography. Most of my library was found in 1849 and eventually relocated to the British Museum. While I was a fascinating man and well-known military leader, my best accomplishment was the library. I collected the Epic of Gilgamesh, which is the oldest known story, and the Flood tablets, which tells about the biblical flood, are two gems from my treasury.
Although it wasn't intentional, my library has been used to verify the truth of the Bible. I am Ashurbanipal, the last great king of Syria. The end.
Come along and learn about Alexander the Great. He is one of many memorable faces of history. Through his child life as a great conqueror and his death, amazing stories are told. At 12 years old, Alexander is old enough to go to the horse market where he and his dad, Philip II, king of Macedon, are going to buy a horse. They run into a person who said he had a perfect that one of his guards wants to kill him and succeeds. Now Alexander the Great is king and going to cross the sea into Asia, where he meets one of his generals. There they start their battles with 500,000 soldiers and many battles to fight. 3 particular battles, one of them was when they had to build a road across the water to attack a city on an island. The other one was where they had to climb a ladder to get over the wall. Too many soldiers were on it and it broke, and not many soldiers made it to the top. Then Alexander jumped to the streets where he got shot by an arrow in one of his lungs. His soldiers broke in and killed everyone. After a long time in his tent, Alexander made it. Finally, Alexander is heading to his last war. They are ready to fight Darius, not sure if they can win, but Alexander has a plan. Darius got scared and fled. Alexander went after him and killed him with his sword. Alexander was throwing a party for beating Darius and his army when suddenly Alexander dropped ill with a fever. His men did not know if he was going to make it, so they lined up one by one to see him one more time. The men were right. Alexander died at only 33 years old, and they put chemicals and oils to preserve him. A huge castle on wheels was made to move his body from the death site to his hometown, which took 2 years to build. It took 64 meals strength to even move the castle on wheels. During the journey to his hometown, someone thought he should be put in one of Alexander's towns, but instead made a tomb for him in Alexandria. Many people visited him for centuries. If I could go visit the tomb of Alexander the Great, I would, and hopefully some of you would consider it too. I found it incredible that Alexander the Great survived after being shot by an arrow in one of his lungs, and so many other facts about his life.
Staying with Christ. Stand fast in the faith and love one another, and be not offended by my sufferings. Saint Perpetua. Surely I am renowned for dying for my faith in the arena. I left behind my journal, which is a rare and significant discovery from an ancient woman, recounting my trial and imprisonment. Now I recount my life before Christ, my dreadful imprisonment, and my tragic death in the arena. My life before I became a Christian was different. I was born in CE 182 in North Africa. My name is Vibria Perpetua, and I was a paganist at that time. When I was young, my brother was very ill till he died at a young age. Nobody really knows much of my life, for they are lost in the pages of history. I was about 22 years old when I heard about Jesus. Prison is dreadful. Sometime after the year 201, Emperor Septimius Severus forbade Christianity. Felicity, who was my slave, and a few others, and I were arrested and ordered into court. We were told to worship the Roman gods, but we refused and were thrown into prison. The prison was hot, muggy, and dark, and the guards were vile to us, especially Felicity, who is my slave. The evening of my death was tragic. After a few days, there was a report that there was going to be court for the hearing. In my diary, I wrote that I had dreams of prison and visions of ascending to heaven. Preparing for my death in the arena, I gave my diary to another Christian who continued it. Mournfully, the unknown Christian described my companions as 5 men and my pregnant slave who had a baby in prison. He also described the men's bravery by being killed by wild beasts. And finally, Felicity and my death by being killed by a sword. My life before Christ was different. My imprisonment was dreadful, and lastly, the evening of my death was tragic. I died for Christ and would not give up my faith. I believe that everyone should stay with Christ, no matter what the circumstances. I stayed with Christ.
Khufu. I am Pharaoh Khufu. I was born in ancient Egypt, and today I am going to share with you about my life. My nation was ruled for about 2,500 years by pharaohs, from my royal birth to my gold-capped monument. I embodied the role of Pharaoh. I am the second pharaoh of the 4th dynasty. My full name is Khunom Khufre. My Greek name is Cheops. I was named after an early Egyptian god, Khnum. My name means Khnum is my protector. My father is King Snefru, and my mother is Queen Hephaestus I. My sons Redjef and Kerafe succeeded me in power after my death. I masterfully ruled for about 23 years between 2589 through 2866 BC, although the exact length of my reign is unknown, because no one knows how often the cattle count occurred. I strategically opened trade with Byblos in modern-day Lebanon for their cedar wood, which was used to craft funnery boats. I also developed Egypt's mining company, where alabaster, quartz, granite, and limestone, or a few of the crucial materials that were unearthed. And I was the first king to build a pyramid in Giza. My monumentous pyramid was erected on the plateau so it could be seen from far and wide. It impressively ascended 481 feet into the sky, almost touching the clouds. The base was 250 feet wide on each side, was fashioned with 2,300,000 blocks, which were individually placed by my adept craftsmen. Each could weigh up to 50 tons. I named it Het Khufu, meaning Horizon of Khufu. The Great Pyramid of Giza is the last of the 7 wonders of the ancient world still in existence, and my greatest legacy. I'm a legendary pharaoh who reigned to the most prosperous time in Egyptian history. The Great Pyramid of Giza is still standing as of 2025. My mom wrote that part. And is visited by thousands of people every year. While the exact length of my reign is unknown, my mining and construction achievements are renowned, standing the test of time. I am Pharaoh Khufu!
Eleanor of Aquitaine, a queen like no other.
Have you ever heard of a queen who was married to 2 kings, went on a crusade, and even got thrown in prison by her own husband? That was Queen Eleanor of Aquitaine, and she has had one of the most amazing lives in all of medieval history. Eleanor was born around 1122 in the south of France. Because her family was rich and powerful, she grew up with a great education in reading philosophy and how to act properly in a royal court. When she was just 15, her father died shortly after she married the son of the King of France, who would later become King Louis VI. On Christmas Day in 1137, they were crowned king and queen. The king sent 500 men just to bring Eleanor to Paris for the wedding, although they went on a crusade together in 1147. The marriage didn't last, they got divorced, and Eleanor was single again. But not for long. In 1152, Eleanor married Henry, the Duke of Normandy, who later became King Henry II of England. Who would have guessed she'd become queen of not one, but 2 countries? Together, they had 8 children. Sadly, their marriage didn't last either, and they separated over time. Eleanor wasn't just a queen, she was also a brilliant poet and a huge fan of the arts. Her daughter Marie helped famous writers like Andreas Capellanus and Chrétien de Troyes, who wrote about courtly love and King Arthur. Eleanor even traveled all over England to help her son Richard make allies before he became king. Even though she was helpful, her husband, King Henry II, felt threatened by her power and had her locked up in different castles for 16 years. She had helped their sons rebel against him. After he died, her son Richard the Lionheart became king in 1189 and let Eleanor go free. While he led the Third Crusade, Eleanor supported him. When he died, her youngest son John became king, and she helped him stay in power and even worked as an ambassador in France. Finally, she retired to a quiet life as a nun and died in 1204. In conclusion, Eleanor of Aquitaine was one of the most legendary queens ever. She was brave, smart, and strong. From queen to prisoner to peacemaker, she lived a life full of adventure.
You got it. Okay. So, the embarrassment of Rome. Out of all the people that lived on planet Earth, what makes someone memorable for the history books? One man named Hannibal Barca has gone down in history books and is it remembered as for there's some opposition to Rome, the Roman Empire. Well, he was born in a military family. He carved his own path on the battlefield with his own unique tactics. Let me tell you about the most epic journey and the starting of the next Punic War.
Hannibal Barca grew up with a deep hatred of Rome thanks to his father, Hamilcar. When his father and brother-in-law died in combat, Hannibal took over as general of the Carthaginian army at 27 years old. After the first battle in Spain, which started the Second Punic Wars, Hannibal started to plot a journey to Rome to battle the Romans there. Knowing he couldn't sail to Italy to fight, he had to do something crazy. Hannibal chose to lead his army of 90,000 soldiers, 12,000 soldiers on horses, and 40 Asian elephants through the Pyrenees Mountains, across the Rhone River, and through the frosty Alps. The tricky terrain made it a difficult journey for the troops, and many men and animals died. Hannibal's army faced many losses because of the landscape, access to food and water, and bitter cold temperatures in the mountains.
Can I read it? Yep. Wait here. Yep. On one section of the journey, he had to cross the Rhone River. To do this, they built rafts across the river, but some elephants got scared crossing the water, and on the elephants were swiftly washed away by the current. However, the elephants water on occasion the army was super tired, but came across so-called friendly mountain people.
Defeat the Romans in an epic battle, but ended up losing the Punic War after 3 long years of fighting. In his retirement, Hannibal Barca still had a clever trick to get revenge on Rome. He sent pots with dangerous snakes to Roman troops to surprise and kill them.
It is clear to see why Hannibal is considered famous enough to go down in history books. He was brave and creative and cunning. Hannibal's army hatred of Rome made him a dangerous enemy, but a exciting man to study.
No, it's going to take a second to get down to the bathroom back and have a snack. For you guys who are visiting, what we would normally do, we don't do papers the entire time, we do share papers, but we have a time where we talk about how to write papers and we talk about English grammar. Normally in the middle, we do a dance break. Today we're doing a snack break. So you guys are welcome to walk out to get a snack, and then we'll have about 10 minutes and we'll come back in. right, come on in and have a seat. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. After the break here so if you noticed a kind of a theme on the first half of our presentation here, we had our unique perspective, and then we had what we called renowned figures from ancient history, so all of them were historical characters. We're switching over. We have a few historical characters here from the Bible, and then we have a few from mythology. So we're going to get started with Grant Baumiller.
The faithful man Joseph. Hello, my name is Joseph, son of Israel and Rachel. I am going to tell you about the wild, true story of my life. God has given me the power to interpret dreams to fulfill his purpose. One day I had a dream. My brothers and I were binding vast amount of grain. My bunch of grain stood up while my brothers bowed down to mine. When I told my siblings this dream, they were furious, while my dad thought it was incredibly interesting. My brothers, who were jealous, started to yell at me, saying, "Do you think you're better than us?" I told my family I had another dream. The stars, sun, and moon were bowing down to me. I heard many years later that my brothers, who were violently discussing what to do with me, wanted to slay me. However, my oldest brother, Reuben, got them to throw me in a pit instead. He intended to save me in a few days. So my brothers threw me in a colossal pit. My siblings then saw an Egyptian. They took me out of the pit and sold me to the Egyptian. My brother Reuben did not know of this. When he found out, he tore his robe in grieving. Since they sold me, they stripped me of my robe and dipped it in goat blood. Then they told my dad I was attacked by a beast. My dad also tore his robe in mourning. After becoming a slave for a while for the Pharaoh's wife, who thought I was strong and handsome, tried to kiss me. I ran away quickly, but because she told Pharaoh that I tried to kiss her, he put me in jail. I met some captivating people while in jail. One day, the Pharaoh's baker and butler were aggressively thrown into jail for offending the Pharaoh. The butler told me he had a dream. It was about a grapevine that eventually blossomed. He said he squeezed the grape juice out of the grapes and poured it into the Pharaoh's cup. Then he gave it to the Pharaoh. I told him what it meant. I said, "In 3 days you will be back in your position of butler. Please mention me to the Pharaoh." The Pharaoh had a disturbing dream. His dream was about him standing right next to the Nile River. Then he saw 7 fat cows and 7 thin cows. The 7 thin cows ate the 7 fat cows. Then he woke up and finally fell back to sleep. He dreamt of 7 heads of grain that were beautiful and plump. There were 7 heads of grain that were withered. Then the bad grain ate the good grain. And then he woke up. The magicians could not tell him what it meant. The butler told him about me. He then summoned me and told me his dream. I told him it was about a famine. After a while, I became second in command. My family was warned about the famine and heard that Egypt was storing grain. They came to me and asked me for some food, but little did they know their quote-unquote dead brother was the man they were speaking to. I revealed myself. They were in shock. They all bowed down to me, just like my dream said many years ago. I forgave them and gave them food. I have learned that sometimes bad things happen so good things can happen. I knew that God had a plan for me. Advice for you: never stop trusting in the Lord. Even though I was thrown into a pit and sold to slavery, but I never doubted the one and only God.
Lydia's hospitality. Hospitality is world changing. I lived during the time Jesus lived and died. Paul and Timothy shared the good news in my town, Philippi. I sold purple cloth, became a Christian, and also helped the church. Purple cloth was special. I live in the culture where red dye was rarely sold. I own my own business which sold purple cloth. Because the rich bought my cloth, I was wealthy. Purple cloth helped my household and me. I became a Christian, dreaming to preach in Philippi. Paul and Timothy crossed to Philippi in Macedonia in Philippi. Paul and Timothy continued outside the river. The other women and I knew about the one true God, but we haven't heard about Jesus. I was one of them. God opened my heart to Jesus. My household and I were baptized. Philippi is in today's Europe. I became Europe's first Christian. I helped the church. I wanted Paul and Timothy to stay at my house. I was in charge of my household because I was a widow. Paul and Timothy stayed at my house after they were in prison. They taught me more about Jesus, and happily I told them that they were welcome at my house. Excitedly, I shared the good news. My hospitality was important to church growth. I sold purple cloth, became a Christian, helped the church. I was hospital which helped the church and spread good news. I was known for my hospitality.
My little chip. Where you go, I will go, and when you stay, I will stay. Your people, my people, and your God, my God. Ruth 1:16 through 17. Devoted and loving, I was one of the non-Hebrew ancestors in David and Jesus' bloodline. I also would have lived in the Persian period from 550 to 330 BCE. I traveled, worked in the fields, and met the kindest man named Boaz. My name is Ruth. I'm from the city of Moab, and I traveled all the way from my hometown to Bethlehem. It all started when my father-in-law, my brother-in-law, and my husband died. My mother-in-law, Naomi, couldn't stand to live in Moab anymore. So Orpah, my sister-in-law, and I begged her to let us travel with her back to Bethlehem. Naomi told us to go back home. We begged, but she prevailed. I stayed, but Orpah went back. We walked for miles, but finally arrived. Naomi's people rejoiced and called her name out, but she commanded, "Call me Mara, for the Lord has dealt horridly with me." Looking around the town, I quickly noticed that it was the beginning of the wheat harvest season. So after my hot and tiring trip, I decided in order to support my mother-in-law, I would have to get to work in the fields. Working in the fields was a hot and tiring job to do. In the evenings, I would pick up leftover threshings that the men would leave for the others. That evening, Naomi told me that the fields I worked in was owned by a man named Boaz, my father-in-law's relative. I was surprised and knew I had to meet him. The next day, Boaz spotted me working in his fields and asked his men, "Who is this Moabite woman?" They shrugged. I looked towards Boaz and pleaded to him, thinking he would banish me from his fields. But instead, he told me to stay near and stated to his men, "No young man in my fields may touch her." They nodded and went away from him. I was relieved I could go to work the next day. The next night, Naomi was pleased to hear Boaz approved of me working in his fields, so she asked me to go to his tent and uncover his feet and lay by them till the morning as a sign of respect, and so I did. When Boaz awoke, he noticed me, and I found favor in his eyes, and so he blessed me. A year after, we had a feast and married and produced Obed, an ancestor of Jesus Christ.
King David. King David was the youngest of 8 brothers. He helped care for his his family's sheep. The prophet Samuel anointed him to be king. David was called by God to fight a giant Goliath. He won the battle and delivered his people, or the Israelites, from the Philistines. God blessed David with many talents, including playing the harp and writing poems. He wrote many of the Psalms. Made her and David
Are you at God David a man? Where are you at?
Oh, God called David a man after his own heart. David was a person, was a pretty good king. I hope this story will help you be courageous and seek God.
Hercules, man or God? Hercules strangled 2 snakes at once when he was 3 weeks old. This is the beginning of one of the most entertaining Greek myths ever. He was born to a mortal woman and Zeus, king of the gods. When Hercules was born, the gods gave him gifts that made him strong and smart. After Hercules had grown up, his stepmother, Hera, was mad at Zeus, so she killed Hercules' children and framed him for it. The gods would think he'd done it. As a result, Hercules was given to the king of Tyrus as a slave. As a slave, King Tyrus gave Hercules many tasks. One of his tasks was to kill a massive lion that was eating the people of the land. He set off and found the lion's cave. The lion came from out of it. The lion's skin was impenetrable, so Hercules strangled the beast and skinned the lion with its own claws. Because the lion's skin was impenetrable, he made an armored cloak from the skin so he would be protected. Hercules was sent on another task to kill the 9-headed Hydra, which would regrow 2 heads whenever one of its heads was chopped off. Hercules fought the gigantic dragon for hours, until he burned the stumps of the Hydra's necks before it grew more. This way, the Hydra couldn't grow more heads. He finally killed the beast, but was tired. He needed to rest before going back to King Tyrus. His last task was to bring the guard dog of the underworld to Tyrus. He went to Hades and asked for the dog. Hercules said he would return it, so Hades agreed. Hercules went and tamed the 3-headed dog and brought it to Tyrus. The king was so scared of the beast, he jumped into a pot and said, "Go, move the dog out, you are free." The king was surprised because he thought Hercules would fail. The gods forgave him, and he moved to Mount Olympus for the rest of his life. Hercules fought a lion, a 9-headed Hydra, and tamed the untamable 3-headed dog. This is a great feat of achievement. Hercules never stepped down from a fight. This is either another gift from the gods or one of the world's most powerful men in mythology. Hercules, god or man?
Zeus, a powerful god. My name is Zeus, the son of Cronus and Rhea. My father was angry that one of us, his children, would overthrow him, so he ate them when they were born. My mother saved me by hiding me. One day when I got bigger and stronger, I tricked him by giving him a drink to throw out my brothers and sisters. Together we defeated him in battle. Later I got married to Hera, and we had many children. One of them was named Hercules. He was strong, brave, and had many adventures. Also there was Hermes. He was a fast messenger.
I lived on Mount Olympus and watched over the heavens and the earth. Being known as a fair ruler, I kept the balance between good and evil. Also, I kept the peace between other gods. I was known as Zeus, the powerful god of the heavens and the earth.
Hera. Do you know the Greek goddess of marriage, family, childbirth, and women was? Her symbols were a peacock, a cow, and a pomegranate. You may have heard of her Roman name of Juno, but this famous woman of Greek mythology is called Hera. Be warned, there is a bit of disturbing information about her upbringing, marriage, and finally, her retaliation. Hera's parents, Rhea and Kronos, were Titans who lived on Mount Olympus. Disturbingly, her father, Kronos, was known to swallow his children right after birth because he was worried that they would become more powerful than him and defeat him. Kronos would make his wife hand him his child wrapped in cloth for him to swallow. Rhea was heartbroken and had a plan to save her last child. So Rhea got a friend to help her disguise a cloth and a rock wrapped up to look like a baby. Rhea left her infant with her friend so Kronos would not find him. Rhea returned home and gave her husband the cloth to consume. Then she made him drink a potion which made him throw up all the children he had already eaten, and they came out fully grown. The child she managed to save was Zeus, and the other siblings who were thrown up were Poseidon, Hades, Hestia, and Demeter. Zeus was a shape-shifting Greek god who was Hera's brother but wanted to win her as his wife. He had a devious plan. He shape-shifted into a dove that was weary, wet, weak, and cold. Hera could not help herself when she saw this poor bird and immediately put the dove in her warm embrace and helped him. Then, soon after, Zeus revealed himself and they got married. They had a son named Ares, also known to the Romans as Mars. They got married. And unfortunately, Zeus was not the most loyal husband to Hera. Hera understandably overflowed with anger. Hera was known for seeking revenge on the women that Zeus pursued. One incident of her great revenge involved a woman named Echo. One day, Hera was out in a field next to this beautiful Greek goddess. She was known for being very talkative. That day, Hera saw Zeus with two other women, and it put her in a rage. But just then, Echo started talking to Hera again so that Zeus could get away. Hera knew what Echo had done, so she made it so this crafty woman could never speak again unless it was an Echo. Hera thought it was fitting for her name. Hera, the Greek goddess of marriage and children, is an interesting and troubling character in Greek mythology. She was wronged by her husband Zeus and always sought revenge. It is a sad story of a woman who deeply cared about family.
You will suffer for this offense. For your arrogance, you will drift on my sea for all eternity. This emphasizes my power and divine justice, as well as people's fear of my wrath and power. My name, Poseidon, comes from the classic Greek words posis, which means master, and daewon for water. I am the second youngest son of Cronus and Rhea, brother to Zeus and Hades. The Romans called me Neptune. I was considered one of the most powerful gods. I have dominance over the vast sea, commanding the waves and creating storms with my trident. I am adeptly known as Earth Shaker due to my sinister capability to cause earthquakes. Although I was ill-tempered and known for my violent nature, I was also revered by sailors and fishermen for my control over the sea.
I was the protector of many ancient Greek cities and colonies. The Greeks offered sacrifices to me to ensure safe voyages and good fortune at sea. In conclusion, I was often portrayed as a powerful, even domineering god, but I was also a protector of sailors and giver of life through the sea. As a reflection of human nature, which can be both cruel and compassionate, we are reminded of the consequences of power and unchecked desires.
I am so impressed. It's neat hearing how well. So you guys who are moving up, kindergarten, first, second, third, going into fourth grade, you'll be doing stuff like this in the future years, which is, I think, pretty neat. It gives an example of